Today I want to talk about how are you showing up in conversations with your teens. And it makes all the difference the way we show up actually in any relationship. But the way we show up and the way we choose to show up, we can actually change the entire family dynamics. And so because this is kind of a difficult topic and kind of hard for us parents to admit that we're going wrong in many cases as we communicate with our teenagers, I kind of want to put a little bit of a playful spin on this and kind of look at it in terms of doing a quiz and how would you answer in this quiz. And so if you had to ask yourself the question, how do you approach conversations with your teenager? A, would you choose A, already knowing all the answers? B, ready to impart your amazing wisdom and knowledge? C, you've got all the solutions to the problems and you've figured it all out? D, you approach conversations to lecture, give a life lesson, or interrogate. And so when you choose either A, B, C, or D, or all of the above, how does your teen respond to you? And so here are the options. A, does your teen become silent, disinterested, and just shut down? B, does your teen grab your amazing wisdom and thank you for your excellent advice and be sure that they'll follow everything you've told them? C, would they walk away frustrated? And D, would they tell you that you never listen and you just don't understand? And so when we're coming at them, they are definitely not going to be grabbing our wisdom and our advice. And so we need to approach conversations differently so that we have a more positive response. And so what if you approach the conversation differently? How about choosing some of these options? A, being curious to hear their ideas, their opinions, and what they have to say. So giving them a chance to be resourceful and creative as we hear what they have to offer. B, what if we set aside our agenda of wanting to solve everything, of being the expert, of giving that wisdom that we want to give them, impart that knowledge, or giving them the life lesson that we feel they need to learn? What if we put our agendas aside? C, what if we were willing to put aside our emotions, our hurts, our disappointments, our expectations, our perceptions of them? Because sometimes we don't always like our kids. We love them, but we don't always like them. And so are we willing to put those perceptions aside, those bias that we might have? And then D, what if we approached them with more questions and really understanding their heart so that they feel heard and they feel respected? How would they respond to us in that situation? And so if we come with them rather with asking them questions, being curious, finding out what they think, being the learner, the student, as opposed to the teacher or the expert in all of these things, how would they respond in a more positive way if we had to have that approach? And so very often, as parents, we feel like we've got to be the expert, we've got to be super parent to the rescue, we have amazing wisdom, we have amazing advice, and we feel like we always need to impart our advice. And we think that our kids are going to just listen to us and it's all going to be wonderful. And that doesn't actually work like that, because we're not allowing connection. When we're always being someone who is always giving our opinions, they're going to be less likely to listen to us. And there's going to be less connection. It's going to affect relationships. And so we also want them, when our kids feel heard, when they feel we've really empathized, we've validated who they are, we've understood their feelings, where they're at, they will then learn to trust us. As we give them more space, they will be able to connect more with us on a much closer bond that we can have with our kids. And so when they feel that respect, there's that trust, and obviously that helps with relationships. And so when we give them the space to also know that they are capable, that when their solutions work, when they have ideas, they learn to be more confident and more self-directed, as we kind of take a step back. We're helping them grow into self-directed learners and young adults who are ready for the real world. And so maybe after listening to this, what is one thing you can do differently? And perhaps, if I can make a suggestion, is instead of always having the answers and telling them what to do, how about thinking up a question? So instead of always stating something, ask a question. And a great question you could think up, in any situation is, what do you think? What do you think? It's a great way of kind of keeping us in check and just to kind of shut up, really. That's what we're doing. And ask them, well, what do you think? Because it's very tempting to always give them the answer and to find the solution for them. What would you do in this situation? If you were this person, how would you solve this? Or even if you have a situation that you need to figure out what you want to do, why don't you go to your teenager and say, hey, what would you do if you were me? What would you choose if you're in my situation? I'm curious to know what you think. Because then they just feel like, they're valuable, you value their opinions, you value their advice, and you're creating that bond of connection, and that's the most important thing. And so I know these things are hard. We have to really practice them, and none of us are perfect at them. I'm learning every day. It's not an easy thing to keep quiet and just to listen and to ask questions. But as we practice these skills, we become better and better, and we become more intentional about listening and about hearing what they have to say. And so I hope that this has really helped you, and perhaps you can start asking, what do you think this weekend, and see how it makes a difference in your relationship. Hope you have a great weekend. Bye.